Hi, I'm Paul Duchesne, and welcome to Mama Paul's video podcast. I'm going to do something completely different today. I'm going to take a look at 3 inspirational books. These are the 3 of them. The first one here is Dusk, Night, and Dawn. The next one is When the Lights Are On But Nobody's Home. And the last one there is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... Okay, I don't know if we can say that on the air, so I'm not going to bother, and I don't need to run into any problems. The light-colored book that you could hardly read the cover of is called Dusk, Night, and Dawn, and it's by Anne Lamott. The second book is When the Lights Are On But Nobody's Home. Great title. The book that brings reality back to make you think again. And the last book, I'm going to leave the last book, I'm going to just leave it over there for the time being. The last book over there is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F-UCK. What got me going with this was this particular book, and let me put that up full screen for a second here and get a look at the. You can get a look at the whole cover. It's When the Lights Are On But Nobody's Home, the book that brings reality back to make you think again, and it's by Phyllis Zuccarello. Now, I ran into this book just this last week, and what happened was an acquaintance of mine who I hadn't seen for quite a few years showed up just recently, and he had lost his wife about 5 years ago, and then within the last couple of years he started to get into a relationship with his ex-sister-in-law. They fell in love, and he gets a wedding ring, and it's getting sized, and the night before he's about to give her the ring, she has this tragic car accident, really bad car accident. And she winds up getting airlifted out of the county, and she's on, this is back in the springtime, and she's on life support for quite a few weeks. Well, they're getting ready to pull the plug, and it looks like she's not going to come through. She has severe head injuries and a lot of stuff wrong. And it looks like she's not going to pull through. And they're literally ready to pull the plug, and somebody went, and then Bob says, well, could a miracle happen? Well, son of a gun, a miracle did happen, and she snaps out of this coma that she was in for 3 weeks. She's come back down to the county here. She's in a regular medical facility right now, and she's recovering nicely. So Bob knew that I did this little YouTube show, so he asked if I would give a shout out to Phyllis. So I said, well, let me see the book that she's got. So he got me a copy of the book, and I'm just going to read the first page. When I got the book, I brought it home and I opened it up. And as some of you may know, I've been married a long time, been married 55 odd years here. And I opened the book up and I just cracked it open, and what am I reading? What Marriage is All About. On a marital journey, there are many decisions to make. Be sure you think ahead about each one you will take. Always walk together, however, allow each other space. And with good communication, you'll walk at the same pace. Should marital problems arise, don't go your separate ways. Stand by your vows to stay together the rest of your days. Vows shouldn't be broken. They are binding till death do you part. Using them as your foundation will always give you a fresh start. And one day you'll look back, glad you worked things out. You see, staying together is how you learn together what marriage is all about. And that's what marriage is about. It's about staying together, working things out together. Anyway, I read this, and it really struck me. And at the end of the show here, I'm going to do a little riff from that my wife Diane put together many years ago. I'll get to that. So there were a few things in the book that jumped out at me, and they're one-page little poems. So the whole book is a series of one-page little aphorisms. Some things you just can't change. Don't ignore your problems. Say what you mean what you say, for the sake of your kids. So you got things about relationships between parents and their kids, between you and your spouse, getting through life, friendship, things like this. Marvelous, really insightful, very inspirational. She opens up in the first poem that she opens up with. It's called "Face Reality, My Friend," and the highlighted word here is "pay attention to what they have to say." As you are taking this journey, words of wisdom may come your way. Pay attention to what they have to say. Pay attention to things you hear. Sometimes things come at you and you don't necessarily take them very seriously. Pay attention to everything that's going on around you, because it's coming into your life. It's affecting you. Pay attention to things you hear. You'd be surprised the messages you get from the universe that you don't think are meant for you. The last line in the book was, "It's all up to you." And she talks about your problems in life, but she's saying it's all up to you. So it really struck me home. Pay attention, and you're responsible for what happens to you in your life. So, like I said, most of these are really neat little aphorisms. There's one here about how a smile could make a difference, and this one struck me also because I have an aphorism that I will talk about after the book here also. How a smile could make a difference. You see light in the darkest places when you smile. You're the winner of many races when you smile. You take a mood from gloom to cheer with your smile. Others enjoy having you near because of your smile. It's hard when things are going wrong to be able to smile, but they won't be for very long if you just try to smile. Living in a world where so many people don't, more smiles are needed, especially because they won't. So consider the earth a garden and let your smiles plant seeds that will grow just like flowers instead of all the weeds. And on life's journey, if you give one to someone each day, not only will it make a difference to them, but it will take you a long way. I really that hit home for me too. I have a little story I'm going to do about this after we finish with the book. Most of the book has got to do with interpersonal relationships, and you couldn't ask for more. And remembering the 60s, that was sort of interesting too. Now imagine. But the two that were slightly political, and I jump out at political, that I really liked were Back in the Day, followed by Nowadays. So I'm going to read these two, and that'll sort of be it. Then I'll finish it up for this book. Back in the day. Back in the day, $1 took you far. It was easy to get around without having a car. A kid would work for a nickel or a dime. There were no computers taking up their time. It was safe for a child to go outside and play. On a date, the guy would always pay. You didn't worry if you forgot to lock your door. Little things meant a whole lot more. You could clearly understand the words of a song. There was less violence. More people got along. A good friend was always by your side. Being gay was something to hide. You were more relaxed instead of stressed. You took pride in the way you dressed. And that was back in the day. $1 took you so far. The one on the next page that follows it is called Nowadays. And nowadays, so that was then and this is now. Nowadays, you have to watch your back. Nobody wants to cut you any slack. Prices are outrageous. It's hard to live. Homeless wear signs saying, "Please give." Kids are abducted in the middle of the night. It seems like everybody wants to fight. It's impossible for addicts to just say no. Drugs are around everywhere you go. More and more teens are bullied at school. Another child drowned in a swimming pool. Marriages don't last that long anymore. The world has problems like never before. The world has problems like never before. Yeah, it's not how it used to be, that's for sure. I'm going to end it up with the last page in the book where she ends it with, "It's all up to you." Don't ignore your problems or think life is unfair. Giving up certainly won't get you anywhere. Keep what you appreciate close to your heart. Try to rebuild your spirit before it falls apart. Hold on to good memories, learn by your mistakes. Break that habit no matter what it takes. Think before you do something you might regret, and always be grateful for the blessings you get. Now, if you realize what matters, the wise thing to do is to bring it home and make the difference. It's all up to you. It's all up to you. How you live your life, how it's affecting you. You can't stop the things that are happening around you, but how you react to them is how you make it and walk through your life. When the lights are on but nobody's home, I'm sure somebody knows somebody out there who's in that position when the lights are on and nobody's home. Dusk, Night, and Dawn by Anne Lamott. Dusk, Night, and Dawn by Anne Lamott. So let's get this one down. Let's put Anne's book up for a second here. Let's put it on the full page just so you can see it a little bit better. The cover is sort of pinkish, and the pinkish colors make it hard to see on almost any background. So there it is, Anne Lamott. I've been buying Anne's books for quite a few years. She writes these inspirational, self kind of help, kind of inspirational books. And over the years, I have come to like her more and more as I have bought her books and given them to relatives a number of times right now. They're a little self-helpy and a little bit over-the-top Christian-y for me. But having said that, there's enough in there that make the whole thing worthwhile. When I finally saw Anne in person about 1.5 years ago, I was really impressed. There was a death and dying conference, confab kind of thing happening at City Arts and Lectures. And we went, and without a doubt, Anne was she was the star of the evening, I thought. I found her really, her humor, her self-deprecating humor was absolutely enchanting. And I really liked listening to her at that point in time. And I started to go back and look and realize that a lot of her humor is subtle and between the lines. Although sometimes she's right out there with it too. So this was the latest book she bought, and I buy it just because I buy books sometimes just to support people. If there's somebody I know that wrote a book, I'll go out and buy the book from a bookstore, not from Amazon. I won't buy from Amazon unless I absolutely have to. Anyway, here's the book, and the back of the cover is, yes, these are times of great illness and distress, yet the center may just hold. Let me just read a little from the front page of the book. She's giving us an introduction of how her year is starting. So here we are, older, scared, numb on some days, enraged on others, with even less trust than we had a year ago. The devastating pandemic, the federal government's confused and deadly response, was simply the final straw to a few years of crushing developments. She talks about a UN report on climate catastrophe was published months before her wedding in 2019. The report of the extinction of 1 million species. So she's reading about the extinction of 1 million species 3 weeks before her wedding is going to be in 2019. She says, our poor country has been torn asunder. Major buzzkill. That one sure was. I await the rain of frogs. I await the rain of frogs. If you remember, there's a whole rift about how it's going to rain frogs. Well, it actually did rain frogs, and it was in Spain, I believe, and this was about 10 or so many years ago. And what happens was, you know, as the rain comes down and then the rain goes back up, right? The heat brings the moisture back up into the clouds. Well, as these droplets of moisture, there was an area in Spain where there was, I guess, large numbers of tadpoles. And these little tadpoles wound up getting brought up into the sort of rising with the water molecules into the clouds, and then boom, they came on down. I think it might have been an island, but it was somewhere on the Spanish or Portuguese coast over there. I remember reading the story. Hollywood wound up making a movie with Tom Cruise, if I'm not mistaken, where literally it started to rain frogs. So that's where the expression came from. So she's talking about, I await the rain of frogs. And I've gotten so much less young. I got Medicare 3 days before I got hitched, which sounds like something an old person might do, which does not describe adorably ageless me. I mostly love being in the third of my life, and it's the easiest that life has ever been, except for, well, the bodily aspects, at which point she's talking about how she's getting a little foggier and dithier, and things are getting a little bit more creaky. I'm not going to read much more of this here. Is anyone in charge here anymore? Well, our great-grandchildren need... She's talking about the devastation happening on the planet, how things are getting bad. And she's saying, are we going to have breathable air to breathe? Are we going to be able to raise our families when our grandchildren need face masks? If so, we'd like to know how to rise up how to help restore all that the locusts have stolen, the earth, the oceans, our democracy. Even with our sore feet, hearing loss, stiff fingers, poor digestion, stunned mind, and broken hearts, we are ill with shock and awe. I am frequently reminded of Garcia Marquez's masterpiece, Love in the Time of Cholera, which I did not ever read, and of Yeats's poem, which I have read a few times, in 1919, that the center cannot hold, the center cannot hold. Yet, these are times of great illness and distress, yet the center may just hold. And there's the hope within Anne Lamott. The center may just hold. And if you're looking for a timely, inspirational Anne Lamott book, hot off the press probably within the last month or so, Dusk, Night, and Dawn. Let's take it down for now, and we'll put up the last of the three, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a... which, like I said, we really can't say that on the air, I don't think, or on TV, or on YouTube. In this book here, somebody gave me this book a while ago. It was one of those toss-away books. And I had seen this at a bookstore in Berkeley, and I was really captivated by the title. Never bought it, and about a year later somebody plopped a copy into my hand. And it's one of these books that I just sort of pick up and just start reading a page here and a page there. Well, I jumped into this one, and it's totally struck me. And it's all about William James. William James is the father of modern psychology, the father of pragmatism, if I'm not mistaken. He was a psychoanalytical from the early part of the last century. He came from a pretty wealthy family. He had a brother and a sister, and his brother Henry was a famous novelist who wrote, among others, Washington Square, which I read when I was actually at NYU in Washington Square. I actually read Washington Square by Henry James, and I think the book has sort of stuck with me since. I really liked his writing. I was very impressed with it. William James, on the other hand, I didn't know that much about, other than that he was the father of psychology, etc. Well, it turns out Dad was successful, and Henry was successful, and the sister was successful. She was also a novelist. But James wasn't successful. Not only was James not successful, he was also a physical mess. The guy had hearing problems, he had digestive problems, he had back problems, he had sight problems. The guy was a physical wreck. And Dad didn't think much of him being a physical wreck. So, being that he wasn't doing anything sort of positive, he decided to take up painting. So he spent a year painting. And at the end of the year, he didn't sell any paintings. His paintings weren't considered that good, and his father considered him a lazy bum again. So then Dad said, all right, well, let me go an extra mile here. Well, let's send him to Harvard Medical School. So he sends him to Harvard Medical School. Well, he didn't really like it. He wasn't really happy there. And I thought this was a great line. After touring a psychiatric facility one day, James mused in his diary that he felt he had more in common with the patients than with the doctors. Well, he shortly left Harvard Medical School and decided to join an anthropological expedition to the Amazon forest. An anthropological expedition to the Amazon forest. Now, the guy's got hearing problems, he's got sight problems, he's got a really bad back, he's got digestive issues. He joins this expedition. They get down there to the Amazon, and the first day they get there, he immediately contracts smallpox, and he nearly dies in the jungle. So he's down in the jungle, he's getting emaciated, he's starving with the smallpox, his back has got him going ballistically in pain, and he can hardly walk, and he's abandoned by the rest of the expedition. The guy's abandoned in the middle of the Amazon forest with all these physical problems, and he's near death. He gets himself home. He got himself out of the Amazon jungle. He got himself back home. Took him months. Almost killed him, but he made it home. He gets back home to New England, and his father is even more disappointed with him. This guy can't do anything right. I mean, the fact that he made it back, you'd think the father would have been, whoa, whoopee. No, no, like you bum. Well, the only constancy in his life was his suffering and the disappointment he brought to his family. So he fell into a huge depression and he was going to take his own life. He was about to commit suicide when he's on the side, he's reading this philosopher, Charles Peirce, P-E-I-R-C-E, who I am not familiar with. And he decided to conduct a little experiment based on Charles Peirce's writings, which were about taking responsibility for yourself. And in the book here, in his diary, he wrote that he would spend 1 year believing that he was 100% responsible for everything that occurred in his life, no matter what. He would do everything in his power to change his circumstances, no matter the likelihood of failure. If nothing improved, it would be apparent that he was powerless and he would take his own life. Well, the punchline is, James goes on to become the father of American psychology. He didn't take his own life, and he gets married. He's got 5 children. He winds up teaching at Harvard. He becomes an international celebrity. Blah blah blah. He took responsibility. He didn't blame it on other people. It wasn't his father's fault that he was miserable. It wasn't some God in heaven's fault that he was miserable because his body wasn't right. No. He was responsible for everything that was going on with him, and that got him to the point of taking responsibility for his life, and he moved on from there. And once he did that, he sort of grew up. Probably know a lot of people out there who don't like to take responsibility for things. I know a few myself. Okay, so I said that there were 2 little aphorisms I was going to repeat that had to do with these inspirational books I've been reading. And as some of you may know, I've been meditating, doing Vipassana meditation for a long time now. And S.N. Goenka was the teacher. And one of the little raps he used to give in the middle of his talks was this little, it's easy to smile when life goes along like a sweet song, but the one worthwhile is the one who smiles when everything goes dead wrong. The first time I heard that, it sort of went in one ear and sort of stuck there. When life goes along, it's easy to smile when life goes along like a sweet song, but the one worthwhile is the one who smiles when everything goes dead wrong. So you can't change the circumstance of what's happening to you, but what you can change is how you react to what's happening to you. And that's what the whole thing is about, how you react to what the world is giving. So if the world is giving you lemons and you make lemonade, that's one thing. If the world is giving you lemons and you get you get all sour, well, that's your responsibility. Either make lemonades or be sour. You know, it's up to you. So how you respond to things is what the whole point of all of these inspirational books is about. The other little aphorism that I work with is, well, people ask me, how are you doing? And I will say, couldn't be better. And they'll look at me and go, oh, really? You couldn't be better? Wouldn't you rather be blah, blah, blah? I said, well, no, if I could be, I would be. If I could do something different about my circumstances, I would have done something different about my circumstances. I couldn't, right now, in the moment, couldn't be any better than it is right now because I am responsible for it right now. Now, this answer was developed by, there was a gal in town here many years ago who was responsible for putting together a corporate, she was a corporate advisor, and she put together a thing called a piece of the puzzle, where people in a corporate situation learned that everybody was necessary in order to finish the job. Well, this is the kind of person she is. So she's at a yoga retreat in the middle of the Berkshires in the mid-'80s, and there's a dozen or so women on this yoga retreat, and they're going and they're passing each other, and how are you, and you know, the standard answers. So they sat down. They said, well, let's come up with a better, more intelligent response to this whole thing. So they spent quite a bit of time discussing various responses, and at the end of the day, couldn't be better was the response they gave. When she came back, she talked to, I believe, to Sylvia Bornstein, who teaches meditation out at Spirit Rock, and Sylvia gave a rap about it, and then somebody who was at that talk was involved with National Public Radio, and they heard it, and they went back on National Public Radio and gave the rap. So it sort of went from this woman in town who was at a yoga conference, who then went to a meditation center, who then gave it to somebody on the radio. And within about a year's time, it became a little bit of a meme where a lot of people were starting to use it beside myself. So it sort of changes your attitude towards things a tiny bit if you think about it. It's you taking responsibility for yourself. How is things going? Well, they couldn't be better. Okay, that's it on that one. I guess I'll get the Lamont book down now. I didn't take it down before. I'm going to finish up with something really, it sort of fits in with this whole thing a little bit. Okay, what I'm opening is this computer over here, and I've got a, my wife, Diane, was a hospice nurse for her whole career, and she made a little DVD a few years ago. Let me put it, well, there it is, and it's called Living on the Edge. Living on the Edge. And as a hospice nurse, every time she would finish a case, you have to deal with these kind of emotional things that happen to you. And a hospice nurse might be having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clients in a week. And 1 or 2 might die in a week. And how do you deal with that? Well, a lot of people wind up in the bar having a few shots to deal with it. Diane decided that wasn't the way to go, and she would come home and she started drawing a picture. She would get out of her what she had just experienced with that particular case. So over time, and she called it story art. So she would draw the picture, and on the back of the picture she would do a couple of sentences explaining it. So this she called it story art, and she studied with quite a few people about this, and she put this together herself as a show where she would show dozens of these and we would draw a theme from them. She made this little DVD, and it's got like 5 of her pictures on there, but the last one ends with her, well, let me just play it. Let me see if I can just turn it around and let's see if I can.
When you allow yourself to really know about death, life's little illnesses turn into miracles of recovery. The sound of my husband's heartbeat as I lie next to him at night becomes a gift of awe and wonder, and the moment of this discovery becomes a moment of pure joy and gratitude.
I sort of liked that, the way she talked about her, as we cuddled together at night and she notices my beating heart. It was, I just almost brought tears to my eyes the first time I heard that. And which is why when I opened up the When the Lights Are On But Nobody's Home book, and I opened up to the page about marriage, that's what inspired me to finish up by reading Diane's, by playing a little piece from Diane's DVD about our relationship together. So that's it, a little inspirational stuff. Take responsibility for your life, peace, patience, and persistence, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining me.